Edison, you have a second? Hello, everybody. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. Just gonna give it a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. Great, wonderful. Let's just give the rest a chance to join in. Tusind tak, Thomas. Ja, jeg måtte jo i gang med trimmeren selv, nu når alle frisører har lukket. Ellers så stod det jo herude til, så kunne jeg få arbejde ude hos dronningen som vagt. Jamen, det er jeg da glad for at høre, Svend. Vi kan godt køre det her helt på dansk, hvis det er. Det er op til jer. Nej, på finsk kan jeg faktisk sige tervetuloa kaikille. Det betyder velkommen til alle sammen. Så vi kan godt prøve lidt på svensk, eller lidt på finsk. I think we're going to keep the session in English in order to respect the attendees, the rest of them, because this was scheduled as an English webinar. So We're gonna do it in Danish in another time. We can schedule something if you guys want it. All right, I think we can get started now. I think most of you guys have already joined in. So welcome to the webinar about people counting and flow control. I'm very happy that you guys are participating. Nej, der er ikke helt fyldt, men det er ikke langt fra. Vi havde omkring 90 tilmeldinger, og vi har 63 koblet på nu, så jeg tror folk kommer på stille og roligt morgen. Sorry. This webinar is going to be about people counting and flow control, as you already might know. The reason why we are doing this right now is we already did a lot of webinars about this in like 4-5 months ago, but we are doing this because this is becoming a more hotter and hotter topic, and we can definitely also tell by the registrations that we have. So let me just try to show you guys how everything is looking in here, because this is our training room right now. I'm only going to be using this as a demo setup for PCFC right now. So I just want you guys to see how it actually looks in here. Show you guys. Oh. This is how it looks. I hope everybody can see the PPT before I keep on going. Okay, great. So this is where I'm sitting. And this is supposed to be a shop entrance, and this is supposed to be a shop entrance. So I hope that's quite clear for you guys. And here I am with our 12 megapixel fisheye camera. This was just to give you a little bit of an understanding how everything looks in here. Once I'm going to be showing some demos and so on, it's going to be easier for you to relate. So let's get back to the important stuff. Second of all, we are recording this webinar, so don't worry if there is some points that you thought, oh, you didn't remember correctly or whatsoever. You're going to be able to see those recordings, and we are going to share them. So at the end of the session, we are going to be having a QR code where you're going to be scanning a feedback. We're going to be very happy if you scan that and share your feedback with us, because it's important for us that these webinars or trainings that we are hosting are actually also creating a lot of value for you guys, because if you don't create any value, then our cause is kind of lost, right? So, and all the content that I'm going to go through today, the PowerPoint, the documentation, the firmwares needed, the programs needed, guidance, third-party software, whatsoever, all of this is already going to be shared with you guys. I have already packed one full file, so you guys can download that one. And you're gonna get the link for it after you share us the feedback. All right? So don't worry. And if you guys have any questions during the session, feel free to ask me. I'll try to see if I can answer to my best effort. If you have something that's more project related specifically, I think it would be better that we had a one-on-one session. Then we can always figure out how to deal with your project, how we can support you the best. All right. So I promised that the topics for today was going to be, I'm going to go a little bit through the topology. And before I go through the topology, I just want to talk a little bit and show you a little bit about how the situation is currently in some of these Nordic countries. After that, I'm going to go through the step-by-step, starting from scratch, how to set up a complete counting solution, the people counting and flow control from Dahua. There are different ways of setting it up depending on which type of products that you're choosing, and configuring all those components, showing you the different variety of options, how to set up the rules and so on and so on. And then I'm also going to go a little bit through some of the cases that we have already been very successful with. And there are many cases that we are not necessarily involved in because these solutions are very simple to set up. So, and last but not least, I'm going to go through a little bit of the third-party integration or third-party way of collecting data from a people counting camera from Dahua. So with no further ado, let's get on with it. So, as you might already know, that there have already been a lot of legislations in different countries in the Nordics in order to maintain this, pandemic situation that we are in now, in order to make sure that we all have a safe environment out there so that we can go buy groceries or go around in the society in a safe way. So it's important that whenever the complete system, all the shops, everything opens up again, that we open that up in a responsible way. And that's why we want you guys to pay attention to this solution. And second of all, you guys also have an obligation in all of this because you guys are our ambassadors or the ambassador of technology, because you get to see all these different features, these technologies that are out there. So this is important that you guys create a lot of awareness that there are technologies that can solve many of these challenges much easier. For instance, the limitation of a specific amount of customers in a shop that is multiplied with the amount of square meters. So when we have some these type of regulations in the different countries, I know, for instance, Denmark is on a hard lockdown as we speak. Sweden is already getting there as well. There's been a quite harsh lockdown. Norway is not nearly there yet, but let's hope they don't get there. But at the end of the day, it's your job to make sure to create awareness about these solutions out there so that people might know. And second of all, what we can use this data for is also in order to prove the volume of customers that we have in a specific shop, because we want to make sure that we have proof for the authorities. When we have regulations limiting us, it's important that we have proof, because if we just have a security guard standing there and saying like, yeah, there's approximately, give or take, 100 to 200. We can't have that happening, because if you have a give or take 100 or 200, that's a big difference. So if we could have a system where we could constantly monitor how many people are in and out of the shops, or just staying in the shop, that would make it much easier for us. That would also be much easier for us to prove the volume. I'm gonna open up this. So as we speak for now, this is what has been done up until now in some of the shops in Denmark, for instance, where they have these different stickers on shops. Right now they're closed completely down, but once they open up again, I assume it's going to be in a in a gentle manner, where we slowly open up in a responsible way. So this could be a solution where they put stickers in front of each shop, and then it says how many people are allowed in there. So I'm just wondering, if there's a shop that's saying, all right, there's 600 people allowed, are you going to be counting them before you go in? That's going to be quite hard, right? Or even for security guard. So the solutions that are out there as well are stuff like this: tally counters and guards. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, there are a lot of guards hired just to be counting people, right? Am I right? I have at least noticed them. The only job for some of them is just counting. And to be counting people is not that easy, or it's not that interesting, because sometimes you end up looking like this guy. And then the tally counter falls down, and then you don't have a proper counting. Or the guy was confused, or the person was stressed. He can't really remember which shop was it, how many people was in which shop. He doesn't really know if it's a mall, for instance, right? So it's important that we don't make the job harder than it is already. Or it could be that people are not really paying attention to their job, right? This was taken, by the way, in Malmö in Sweden. I was watching these two security guards in the night at 12 o'clock, just paying attention to whatever was happening on Facebook. I hope it was a webinar that I was hosting or something that they were registering for, but you never know. Another solution I have seen is stuff like this. I just heard about it. Some of our Swedish customers can confirm that, I hope. that they are using, for instance, in Sweden right now, they are using bricks in the supermarkets. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I heard, and I don't want to stir up rumors. So putting bricks in the cart in order to make sure that there is a specific amount of bricks in the shop, which is multiplied already by the square meters. So the bricks should be kind of symbolizing how many customers are allowed in the shop. So each customer puts a brick in their shopping cart, shops, and then puts the brick back once they are finished. So a very analog way of doing it, but at the end of the day, it kind of solves it. And then the last part I couldn't help thinking is, what about the sanitizing of those bricks? Is anybody sanitizing them? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, sorry, small stores, yeah. Okay. But at the end of the day, we are talking about a way to kind of cope with this situation as we are in desperate needs. Go ahead, use some analog solution. That's also something that could help you out in a situation like this. But now that we have technology, why try to use some of those solutions out there? And it's tough. It's tough counting people. I don't know if you guys have tried it. It might not seem that tough, but it is really, really tough. And if you don't believe me, try to see if you guys can count and try to write it in the chat as soon as possible. All right. So first of all, this is going to be approximately our counting line. And these three people are not supposed to be counted. So downwards is the entrance and outwards is the exit. All right. So that guy, once he crosses, you have to count him. So now try to count how many people are coming in and leaving, and then try to give me the exact number. And let's see how good it is, how good you guys are doing. If there's somebody who've already tried this, then don't answer, please. All right, let's go on. Ready? Go. That was 1, 2, 3 going out. Keep going, keep going. Wow, now everything got hard, huh? People are coming from multiple directions. How to keep track of them? Just give me a sec. So, any guesses? How many people came in and out? Any guesses? Anything? 20, which way? And what about the other way? Christopher. So 20 people in total in and out, but you're supposed to divide them. All right, anyway. So the correct counting number is 6 people going in and 19 people going out. So that was in fact quite hard, right? Let me just drop this over here. That wasn't that easy, but anyway, think about it. You guys had to count for what, 30 seconds? And I don't know if you guys noticed the pressure that was building up in your head once you were trying to count both ways. Was it just me, or doesn't that pressure build up in your mind? I for sure did it while I was trying to keep track of them in the first time I was doing it. But anyway, it's just to show you guys that it's not that easy to count for even 30 seconds. Think about a security guard that has to do that for a full day, making sure to keep track of going both ways, right? That's a tough job. It's not easy. And then obviously you will also have plenty of wrong counting. So that's why I wouldn't prefer that solution. So from Dahua, we have a people counting and flow control solution that is dedicated for stuff like this, because given the situation, we thought that it's even more important than ever that we have a good understanding of the flow of people coming in and out. So we are having a shop with a responsible or to see appearance of customers. So the solution consists of line counting, queue detection, and then you're able to do reportings. And you can do all of this either with just cameras and NVRs, or just cameras alone, or cameras and a platform or whatsoever. So this is how it looks when we are doing the area counting. First of all, the area counting and the queue detection, the difference is the area counting only gives you the exact counting. For instance, if you set a max for a rule to have maximum 5 people, beyond that, you want to trigger an alarm, then you could set it up. If you want to do queue detection, you can do something similar. You could either choose to have a specific amount of customers, but you could also set a specific time instead. So you could choose whichever you want to use. So if a customer has been waiting more than 20 seconds, 30 seconds, then the alarm is going to be triggered if that's your, what to say, option to set up. Or you could set it up to 5 minutes, whatever. So if a person moves out of the rule and goes in again, he's still counting, and you would be able to see the counting on the head of each person. It might be a little bit hard to see on these pictures, but each person has a box on top of them, and then they have a counting right on top of them. Try to write it in English. I'm sorry, Björn, my Swedish is not the best. I'm so sorry. So this is the first way of doing it, the counting. And then we have and as you can see, by the way, you have multiple rules for one camera. So you can count multiple areas, multiple queues with one camera, not just one queue and that's it. So which are too close? All right, never mind. Okay. Then we have the people are too close. No, they're not too close. The distance is quite fine for the installation height, if that was what you were thinking about. So then we have the line counting. The line counting is what I've been setting up in here in our office. The line counting, what it does is you have to create a rule, first of all, a box, and then you have this trigger line. That's also what you saw before from the counting in where you had to count all those people coming in and out, right? So our rule says that first of all, the person has to cross this line, then cross the trigger line, and then come outside and cross the last line from outside here. So that's the confirmation line, the last one, to confirm that that person should be counted. So if a person decides to go halfway and then go out again, then he's not counted. Because I know for a fact that some manufacturers, they have a line counting, which is just a line. So if a person is standing in the middle of that line and just waving their head, because the solution is counting based on heads and shoulders, ours is at least, and I'm quite sure that many other manufacturers are doing the same. Then if a person is standing in between the line and he's swaying, sometimes if people are standing talking, then he might be counted multiple times. So that's why we have this rule where it says that they have to cross these 3 lines. Yes, if you're talking about the one that I have in the back, if that's the one you're referring to, that's coming directly from an NVR. So that has already been done in Swedish. And yeah, that's the distance between the people, I guess, right? Yeah, the queue detection I was explaining about was not about the distance between the people. That was just the amount of customers in a designated area. So that wasn't referred to as that. So yeah, I guess. But that's not a new video. That's not in here. So that's not made for that purpose. So, but yes, this part is in Swedish as well, and we are already getting a translation for other software as well. So I'm going to explain a little bit about it later. So this is the way that it counts. And the preferred way to install it, if you ask me, is definitely where you have the camera mounted in the top, counting directly down, especially if you're using the 3D camera. This is the preferred way. Because what happens is, if a person, first of all, either if you have the camera mounted too close to the entrance and the rule is not able to detect that the person is coming in the shop, then it's going to be hard for him to trigger. Second of all, if the angle is too sharp, then what would happen is sometimes if a taller person is walking behind a shorter person, the shorter person might not be captured. So his head won't be counted. That means then the counting is wrong. So this is stuff that we can avoid in making sure that our installation height and angle is correct. So this is how it looks in our office. I've set it up. This is a good way of installing it. And now you can see that it's counting up and down. I'm trying to see if I can make it a little bit hard for the camera, because I hope that from my many of my experiments, my testing demos, people know that I'm not trying to give the cameras an easy time. And you can see the camera is doing a great job up in the corner. Yes, the angle installation is fine to use with the 5 series as long as it's not too sharp. So I have some different examples. What you just have to bear in mind is that's going to be fine, but if you have multiple people coming close to each other, we have to think about this not only as a COVID situation. Yeah, try to look here. I'm going to try to go quite fast. And even though the camera is capturing me, right? So even after this COVID period, it's also important for us that we are able to count correctly. So it's not just based on only the distance between people or anything. That's a separated topic, but it's based on making sure that we have accurate counting. Because if we are basing a lot of different efforts based on the counting, for instance, campaigns on whatsoever, then we need to make sure that this data is correct. Because if the data is not correct, then everything goes to shit. We can't really use it for anything, right? So the main reason why we might sometimes use the dual sensor in here, that might be that the height is not there, that we only have a shorter height, so then we cannot use a 5 series either, or what to say, because that requires an even higher height for the ceiling. So 5 series is fine to use. It's not as accurate as the 3D. I haven't noticing any difference, but that's from the specs. I have to stick to the specs. But you can install the 5 series as long as you don't have too sharp an angle, because as I said, that's gonna make a problem. That's gonna give you some problems in terms of maybe a tall person is walking in front of a shorter person, and then you have wrong counting. I hope it explains it. All stuff like this. This is me and my colleague. This does work, in fact, but we have to think about if people are blocking each other. This is done with the media publishing software. This was just made as an example to give you an understanding of what you could do if you're using DSS with the BI module, the cameras, and then also the media publishing software. And there you can see I'm not allowed to go in again because it says no. Or over here, this is not the easiest environment because this is outdoor. This is done with a 5 series. Now you can see how well the system is counting. I'm not sure if you guys can keep track of it, but it actually works very, very, very well. So remember that usually a guard is supposed to count this. It's going to be impossible for him. And think about, these are just people going one way, right? So our solution works great. It has a high accuracy, and I'm going to go through that a little bit later. Next part is, now that I know that Dahua has a solution, which products do I need, right? So we have these different products right now as it is for the flow control solution. First of all, the 3D camera. Where should I use the 3D camera? If the ceiling is not that high, the minimum height has to be at least 2.2 meters. Personally, I would prefer 2.4 meters at least, because what we have to remember is the lower the camera is, the harder it is to detect once a person moves back and forward quite fast. So the higher it's installed, the easier it is for the camera to detect now the person is here, he's triggering our rule, and he's going out from the boundary boxes. So now he's counted, or the other way, vice versa. So we have a high accuracy due to that it's a 3D camera. It uses 2 lenses to verify that this is actually a person that we should be counting, and going back and forth. So that would be where I would be using it. Second of all, it has a stronger capacity than any other camera because it's dedicated for this purpose. So it can count up to 80 targets at the same time. It's a higher amount than our previous generation people counting camera. So I'm not sure that you'll find, I haven't seen any camera in the market that does such a well job, that is so strong in the algorithm, but also in the processor power. So that's the most preferred camera I would use. Then we also have the 5 series cameras. Maybe you're using it for something else. The most important part is make sure you have proper angles. We have explanation documentation that you guys are gonna get, so don't worry about that part. It's gonna explain everything about angles and height and so on and so on. What I like about the 5 series as well, it has a 140 dB. That means if you already have it a little bit angled and you have strong light coming in, the WVDI is going to be dealing quite well with it. So, but as you can see from the accuracy rate, you have a 95% accuracy rate with the 5 series, and you have a 98% with the dual sensor. So obviously it's a little bit different when you have a dedicated camera. If I use a counting system, I can't use it in the same time for face detection. No, if you're setting it up to use the people counting, then you can't use face detection at the same time. So there is kind of a workaround to it. If you have, for instance, an AI NVR, then what you can do is you can set up some of these rules back end. That means the AI NVR can do the face detection analysis, and then you could use the camera for the counting. But usually what you have to remember is, I wouldn't prefer to do that, because if you want to have people counting, the angle has to be not as direct towards the faces, but more downwards. But if you want to have proper face detection, then you want to have the angle pointing more or less directly towards the faces. So they are kind of contradicting each other, if it makes sense for you guys. So I would never prefer to have multiple tasks when I'm doing especially stuff like people counting. So as you can see, you have the cameras in the 5 series with the motorized lens. If you use the bullet camera, you could use the alarm inputs. We have a specific firmware for that purpose, where you can control the counting up and down. I'm going to tell you why it's important. And then to the right, you have the fixed lens. We also have a dedicated firmware for that. So if you are using a camera alone, you have to have a customized firmware if you're doing the counting directly. Can you use the same NVR? The same NVR to do what? To do the counting? Because the counting is just done from the cameras. What the NVR does with the firmware I'm going to show you is it's just combining the numbers. So what I was referring to before was an AI NVR that can do some backend analysis. I hope it clarifies it. But if you're using your NVR for regular purposes for CCTV, then you can install this firmware, upgrade this firmware, and then you could use it for your regular CCTV, but also for your people counting. I hope it clears it up. But anyway, if you're running a standalone solution with the camera for counting, then you need a specific firmware for that. Everything is already going to be shared in the sharing with you guys. So each camera has up to 4 different counting rules that can run simultaneously. So you can have multiple different areas. If we go over just a sec, let me try to show you guys. I wanted to actually demonstrate how it looks. Let me try to connect to a camera. So this is my people counting camera. I hope everybody can see that. Oh, I hope everybody can see it. Is it clear for you guys? Okay, great. So first of all, the step is to upgrade the firmware. Second of all, go into the settings, and then we go into the events. Once we have gone into the event, we go to the smart plan. We choose which type of analytics do we want to use. Then we go ahead and save, because it's the people counting. Once we've done that, we go into the people counting menu. In here is where I can set up my rule. I had already set up my rule. I could just click over here, and then I could set another rule for the area counting. There we go. And then in here, I have a bunch of different stuff I can set up. Right now, I'm just going to delete it because I just have a people counting rule. That's fine for me. So over here in the people counting firmware, what the difference is that in here, you get a possibility to reset the counter directly, choosing whichever specific time you want it to reset in. That could be a nightclub where they might want to reset after 4 o'clock. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend you to go to any nightclubs nowadays. But that was, for instance, we had an amusement park where people were leaving at 2, 3 o'clock. Then obviously we want to have the counting done from the 3 o'clock instead. This is a 8 series dedicated camera, but this stuff is exactly the same. You won't notice the difference. So this is exactly the same stuff. This is the HDW 8341X. All the model names are listed. So apart from that, I can set a specific flow rate alarm. Stranded alarm is where I want to set it up so that you could set the stranded alarm to 20, for instance. So if the camera detects 20 people are in here, then it's going to be triggering. Then we could choose which type of triggerings do we want. Do we want it to trigger a relay for a lamp? It could be anything. For a door, so that the door closes, nobody is allowed to go in, only outwards. It could send an email, so on and so on. So then we can set the maximum and minimum height for the counting over here, so that we are not counting, for instance, children, if we don't want to count those. And over here, we have the calibration configuration. First of all, what we need to do is we need to click ground and then choose an area, and then we need it to refresh. And then it's already going to be detecting the distance to the floor and the angle that it's installed at. And then you just save it. So that's it. If we go over to queuing, we have a different set of rules. We have, as it says, threshold or specific time alarm you could set up here. But right now we're going to focus on the flow control. So, and right over here, I think I already showed you the demo before. All this counting is done directly from the camera. So in here, last but not least, you could use it for getting all your reports. You can click report, and then you could choose, for instance, to search on the queue detection, the people counting, choose the date and do the search, and then you have the exact data. And then you can also export that data. We have to measure the distance from the floor and the angle of the camera. Yeah, the camera actually does everything by itself. So you don't have to do anything. Just make sure to pick a place where it's the solid part of the ground as the ground part. And then once you do that, then it's going to be collecting it or what to say, calibrating it by itself. So it's super simple to set this stuff up. I think sometimes it seems more complicated than it is, but not for Dahua systems, but might be for other manufacturers. So we can export it, and then we get all those data in a export, and that's it. No, unfortunately, you cannot do that, but we actually have an option where we customize the feature like this for the Dss Pro. I'm going to show you a little bit about it later. So that was it for the camera part. If we go on to the next part, I can see I don't want to run out of time. So that was the camera part. If we go to the NVR you can use for a the alarm in. The alarm in is for the for instance a bullet camera where you can trigger it to trigger alarm the counting up and down if you want to correct the numbers. I have it on the NVR as well. I'm going to show you. What was confusing? Sorry, Christopher. Anything specific? I just meant that it can it could do the exporting. So then we have the NVR. With the regular NVR, you have a specific firmware, a customized firmware that's already located in the sharing files. You install that, and then you get the possibility to connect up to 8 people counting channels. So then you get the combined counting from them. You can connect it also to a digital signage box that you can do with the camera alone as well. Sorry, I'm going to show you, I'm going to summarize all of this up afterwards. And then you can correct the numbers for the counting. For instance, if you have, let's assume you have a wrong counting, then by the alarm inputs 1 and 2 on the NVR, you can count up and down a little bit, and then you have the correct number if you have a miscounting. The flow view, as you could see over here, comes in a Nordic language as well. It's in Danish, it's in Swedish, Norwegian, I think it's in Icelandic as well. So, and then you can do the statistics over here. Oh, I think I have it already backed up. It's the same way that you could see the numbers. So let's try to go through the setup of the NVR. Let me try to show you guys. Can you guys see this? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Great. So 8 people counting channels. It means that I can connect every camera to the input and mark it like counting channel. You could add 8 channels for people counting. That would be where you had, for instance, one shop with multiple entrances, and then in the NVR you have a combined counting, and you're only going to be counting up and down like that. It's not individually for each camera you're controlling the counting. I hope it clarifies it. All right, this is my NVR over here. I'm just going to be trying to control it right now. So this is how it looks. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm connecting. By the way, you can see right here that you have the flow mode over here. And this is one of the special parts about the firmware. There we go. And then next part is I'm going to add a camera. So I have added a bunch of different cameras. Nothing special about that, just like any other solution. But I can use this function only with camera with the possibility, or I can use it, for instance, with and mark it also as counting people. No, you have to have a dedicated people counting camera. You have to have a 5 series camera or a 8 series counting camera. You can't just choose any camera. All right, so once I have added the camera, the next part is to create a smart plan, just like we did with the camera directly on the website. You can do this directly from the NVR. If you're doing it directly from the NVR, you don't have to do it from the camera side. Okay, great. So this one is added because I'm already doing the counting. Then I have the people counting over here. And over here, I'm setting up the rule exactly more or less the same way as I was doing in the web browser for the camera. I'm setting the counting rules, so on and so on. So the special part is over here. I can go to the people flow control. This is the important part. So first of all, I can set up the threshold, how many people are allowed in the shop. In my case, I'm just trying to do it as one person because obviously it's hard for me to trigger 20 people. Then I could set a warning level if I want to use it, because we have 3 lamps. If we want people to be aware, now we are reaching the limit almost. We can set the reset counting. We have all those different possibilities as we had in the camera already. It's possible to have an alarm out being switched on all time when there is enough people in the shop. Yes, you can do that. That's not a problem. You can set this alarm output over here for that part. If it was, for instance, the alarm output of the NVR, and it has, depending on which type of NVR you're using, if you're using a 5 series with the smaller 5 series to this solution, you have less outputs than the bigger ones. What hardware do you use to record NVR interface? I'm actually using an encoder. You could write me if you want to know more about it. I'm actually running the encoder. I'm picking it up from my VMS Dss Pro, and then I have connected it to my NVR so I can show you guys this part. Oh, sorry. Okay, great. So once I've set up my complete rules and set up the threshold and so on, down here in the OSD overlay, I can choose what I want to show. So if I don't want to show all of the counting, I can choose only to show how much available space there is or how many people there are staying inside. So I choose whatever I want to show. So right now I'm going to show you everything. So second part is the adjusting of the counting, for instance. If I want to make sure, first of all, obviously just go ahead and save. If I want to control the adjustment of the numbers, then in the alarm input in here in the ports, port 1, down here it says modify enter number. This is also part of the customized firmware for this. So whenever it says 1, that means if I click the button once, then it's going to count 1. I could set it to 5. So when I click the button, it counts 5 people in or out. So that's the alarm input in, alarm input 1 for the counting in, and then we have the alarm input 2 for the counting out. So then I have a possibility to always adjust it. So if I try to go back, go to my flow view, flow mode, this is how it looks. Let me try to remove some of that stuff. Let me remove some of it. For instance, if I only want to show the, not the enter or exit, that might not be interested for the customers. Just this part, the available and the stay number, because it's interesting for people to at least be able to see how many people are in the shop right now. So that's it, nothing else. So simple it is. So that was the NVR part. Yeah, sure, we can talk about it later. Yeah. So in the NVR, what we can do as well is we can go ahead and see the statistics. So if we go in here, go to my search over here, I can go ahead to my people counting, and either I can choose to search individually for each camera, but I could also go ahead and do a people flow control search. Then it's going to be combining the cameras that I'm searching for. It's going to show me the statistics of the combined counting. There we go. And that's the amount of people staying inside and so on and so on. And I can obviously export that as well. There's one thing I forgot to mention, sorry. Once I have set up my people counting cameras from the smart plan for the counting, over here in the people flow control, I have to choose the channel. Which channels do I want to do the combined counting? Channel 1 and 2, or that could be 1, 2, 3, or 5. Choose whichever you want to do the combined counting on the NVR. So that's how the NVR works. I hope it was very clear for you guys. I'm just going to change this to a different language just so you guys can see. And there you go. I hope it's clear. That's only for the 5 series NVR. I'm quite sure we have a firmware as well that is for the AI NVR if you're interested. So you could always let me know, Martin. So I hope that was very clear how to set up the stuff with the NVR. I told you guys that I was going to show you the, the demonstration of how to do the setup. All right. Then we have the Android player. How does the Android player work? The Android player actually also have an application you could install directly in it, and that's also shared with you guys. So what you do in the Android player is also quite simple. Let me show you guys. Okay, This is coming directly from the Android player. This is something that I had set up. So the first thing to do with an Android player is super safe password. I hope you guys can see my Android player right now. Is it visual for you guys, or else I'm great. All right, so let me just show you what I did over here. The first thing I need to do with my Android player is I need to go ahead and obviously initialize it, set a password, set a DHCP IP if you want to use that. What if you have like 3 people inside and you set up counting how to reset before you leave the place? You could usually go ahead and reset the numbers directly from the web browser of each camera. So it goes back to 0, for instance. So once you have set up the IP address and so on the Android player, super simple, just manage it from a mouse or a keyboard that I'm doing right here. You install the app manager, you go to the app manager and then you go ahead and install. And on the USB, I have the Android Playbox APK. Once you've installed that, then you get these different views in the local release. So in the local release, you get these options. You get these options. So either you could choose only to show the flow view like this. Once you're in here, what you can do is if it's just connecting directly to a camera, then what you do is you click the plus button over here in the middle. Then you choose if it's an NVR or if it's an IP camera that you're connecting. So if I just wanted to connect an IP camera, then I go ahead and type in the username. Choose how many people should be maximum allowed in here. Oh. And then we go to the OK. I just refreshed, that's great. But this is how I set up the other parts. And the same goes for this part. If I choose this one, I can add either a camera directly, and I can also add a couple of pictures or videos for marketing. That could be an advertisement for a shop. That could be a menu for a shop, like a restaurant or whatever. So this is actually what I did. Now I'm just gonna quit this one. I'm gonna go back to my programs. And then in here, if I go in here, then I have it here. This is how it shows. I added some pictures by myself and over here as well. And then I have the camera, because for instance, in many shops, you might have a camera that is pointing directly at the entrance and then a screen showing already the entrance. So people are notified that there's CCTV in here, right? We can use any Android box with the special app. No, this app is for this Android player. You can try it out with any other Android player. That's up to you guys. But we have only what we have been notified is that it's for this Android device. But I'm sure that you could get something working. So, and then I set it up so that it's using the NVR over here. So I hope that part is clear, how to set up the Android player. So that was the Android player. And as you could see, you could use it as well like that, as I just showed you. Or you can also use our floor standing digital signage in the same way as I just did. You just have a different type of views like this. That could be our entrance. We could use it like this, where it's showing some advertisement videos, and then we have the counting in the bottom. So to sum up everything, since we went through a little bit of hands-on and a little bit of explaining and so on, then I wanted to sum it up. So if you have a single entrance store, what you could do is you could install a dedicated 3D people counting camera, connect it to a switch. You can connect it to an output if you want to trigger something, or you could use the 5 series, no difference in that part. Then you can connect it directly to the Android player. with the screen, and then by network, you're choosing the people counting directly from the camera. If you go beyond and choose to use an NVR to do this part, you can go ahead and connect the NVR directly to the HDMI. Once you've done that, connect it to the network, obviously. Then you can trigger the relay out directly from the NVR, from the counting. You can modify the numbers. You can go ahead in the, if you have, for instance, a shop with multiple entrances, so how to go about that. This is where the NVR becomes even more important. When you have multiple entrances with the NVR, with the 5 series NVR, you can have up to 8 channels for people counting, for covering up multiple entrances. 5 series or dedicated camera. You can connect it, like I just showed you, to the Android player or the digital signage box. So I hope that was a clear summary of how you can combine this stuff. As I said, you're getting the PPT, so no worries. So if you go beyond that step, we have a greater solution even, that is for a Dss Pro with a BI module. That means our VMS software with a business intelligence module, connecting that with a media publishing software. So for instance, what you can use this for is, if we just start off with the without the media playing publishing software, you can use this if you have a huge shop and you want to divide the areas. For instance, you want to have a counting of separated areas, or that could be separated floors in a mall, and then you can connect them all to one system. Then you can run the digital signage. If you want to trigger some specific content from whatever you decide to add, like pictures, videos, and so on, you would need the media publishing software. There you have lots of more editing possibilities. Then you run a service on the same server. You can do, that's up to you guys. And then you run it, everything from the DSS that is triggering whenever there is a less amount that is allowed. Then it's triggering one content. If the number have exceeded of customers allowed, then it triggers another content, as you saw before from my test I was doing earlier from the video. And then you can have multiple screens. You can have audio, so it notifies everybody to be aware that the people are not allowed, so on and so on. So, but Dss Pro is a licensed software. So once you have the BI module and the Dss Pro licensed, then what you're able to do is, first of all, manage people flow in up to 2,000 shops. So there's not really a limit to this, almost, I wouldn't say. Looks something like this. You divide them each individual shop, and then you have a complete overview of all the counting. You can create individual, credentials for each individual, rules for each shop owner. For instance, he could have his own login, and then he's only being able to see the business intelligence and flow analysis of his shop. Not necessarily, you don't have to use the NVR in this case. You can use the NVR, but that might only be for the recording. So the DPP18 is for the screens, and then the MPS, and then you are using the Dss Pro to trigger all of these different things, the content, and so on and so on. The MPS is creating the content and preparing it. The Dss Pro is triggering it to each screen. So each shop owner has his own access, for instance, and then he only sees his own shop, for instance. You can also have a bigger shop, as I just said before, dividing them into multiple departments instead of shops. That's up to your own creativity or floors. Trigger alarm for specific staff whenever the number exceeds in a specific shop. Will it connect to shops via P2P, or does it all have to be on some? It has to be on one network. Or it has to be on one network, yeah. You can connect each shop differently, yeah, by port forwarding or whatsoever, or VPN, that's possible, yeah. So, but you can't use the P2P function for this part. So you could, notify or set up alarms, emails, or whatsoever for shop owners or for specific staff, for guards in the shopping mall. This is how it looks whenever the alarm triggers in Dss Pro. So then you get notified. You could choose whatever you want to trigger. So I just chose these couple of cameras to be showing whenever the alarm triggers in this specific shop. So that's completely up to you guys. you can go into the management part. You can see from a map where this camera is located, where this alarm triggered from. You can write in specific messages, confirm the alarm, so everybody always knows which alarms came in when and how. So this is kind of a monitoring system as well, compared to if you go for the simple NVR solution. So then you get even more advanced statistics for what to say, for campaigns and safety and so on and so on. And then last but not least, you have one platform for everything, because this is not just for people counting and flow control. You can use it for access control, regular CCTV. You could use it for thermal cameras. You can use this for video door phones, so on and so on. There's a lot of different options. So this is how the statistic part of it works. In the DSS, you'll be able to see all the statistics, how many people entered and exited and that particular date. You could choose to run the search on specific entrances only. So you only get the data that's interesting for you, and you can see the retention volume as well. How many people are in there at the current state. This is just counting how many people are coming in and out at that given time. And then you have the, as you can see, if you hold your mouse over some of them, it's going to show you exactly how many people came in and went out at that specific time. Or over here, as you can see. And you can see this is an amusement park we are covering, and you can see the amount of entrances and exits that are registered are very close to each other. That means we have a very high accuracy. So that just shows that this is a great system. If there's some miscounting, that could be people leaving, like staff that are not using the main entrances, for instance. Or you could go in here and see individually on each entrance which one is the busiest entrance, because we want to run some campaign, but we want to focus it where we have most of the people coming in. We can also see the statistics so that we are able to see when we are running a, or what to say, if we are having a concert and sending out invitations, are we getting more higher attendance from customers, guests in our amusement park, for instance. So how is the accuracy? I had tested this thoroughly with the accuracy, tested a lot of it, calculated, made sure that we have accurate counting, because to me, this data is the most valuable part. If we have wrong data, it's worse than even having data. So accuracy up to 98.1%. This was from a case in the in an amusement park over a period of 3 months. So that means if we have a tough scenario, an outdoor scenario with tough requirements, and you get such a high accuracy, that shows you that that's a great system. I haven't seen any other systems doing it so great with this type of accuracy. So over here, another test we did with an entrance for a shop, not that long time, but we had a very, very high accuracy. We had 2 cameras. Over here, we had a food street hall where we had a high accuracy as well. They were using the content for the data and also for the advertising for the customers. So, and as you can see, it got notified quite a lot, and we had an ad in the newspaper as well. Over here is also one of the bigger cases that we had done, multiple cameras, 7 pieces of the 5 series cameras, and we had a very, very high accuracy as well. There is a complete article over here about this case where everything is explained, how we did, what were the, challenges, and how did we install it. I helped configure most of this, and which products did it consist of. So it makes it very easy for you guys to understand how we did a complete project. So let me just try to show you quickly how Dss Pro looks. Exit full window. This is, sorry. So the way to connect everything is we go to the server side first of all. So I have my people counting cameras, for instance. So first of all, I would add my devices. Obviously, I have to have a license to run this stuff. And then over here, I add my devices. Once I've added my devices, I go into each one of them. That could be through an NVR or directly. That's up to you. Then I go to my video channel. And then over here, sorry, this one is the face detection camera. For instance, this one. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing in the Dss Pro, or else I'm just wasting my time. And you're wasting yours. Then over here, we choose the cross-line statistics. Once I've chosen that, then my camera is ready for the counting. Can you guys see this? Okay, great. So once I've done this part, the next part is that I need to make sure, and by the way, as I said, this is a customized version for the flow control. So that's also located in the sharing. So the next part I need to do is I need to go to my store management. In my store management, I will create a shop. I can choose a name, shop A. I can choose the threshold. I can set the clearing time for the counting. I can set a warning level, for instance, when it's 30 people. And when we have 28 people, then I want to have a warning value. Then I upload a map, just add in whichever map. And then I choose whichever camera should be connected to it. Since I'm already using them for another shop, I'm just gonna show you, and that's it. I don't have to do anything more. So in here, as you can see, my cameras are already located and they are set to entrance statistics. And that's it. So once I've done this, then in my client, I will see them as you saw earlier. You can add add them to a map so you can see them from your events. That's up to you. I added some of these, for instance, the Dahua Nordic office. And then I also have an overview in that way. So that's up to you. That's not mandatory. So I've set up my store view. I've assigned my rules in the camera already and set up in Dss Pro as well. So the next part is the automatic reporting. I haven't tested that thoroughly because I didn't have the time, but what you can do in here is you can set it up that it's going to be giving you a daily report every day at 3 a.m. in this case. So at 3 a.m. I will get a complete statistic over how many people went in this shop and at which hour exactly. So I can also go in here and choose to have only a weekly statistics, like every Monday I will get a weekly statistic, or a monthly, or I could also choose a specific period. So I want the statistics every hour, for instance. So that's also an option. And then down here, I choose which users should have these alarms, or what to say, reports. Once I've done this, I will click save. I had already done it over here, and then that's it. So that's how to set up the automatic reporting. So if you want to set up the email part, you have to set up your SMTP settings if you want to use your email functions from the DSS. So if you want to set up specific alarms, for instance, you have to go to your events. I've already created one. So what you would do is you would go to add all the way down to store alarm. And then you could choose which type of alarm. I want to have a store alarm threshold exceeded. Yes. And for which shop? The shop Nordic, for instance. Once I've done that, then I could choose whatever should trigger whenever I have set up this alarm. I want to have a couple of cameras showing. I want camera this, and that. And if I have already set up my storage in my server side to store in my server whenever there is an event, then I could choose to get it to pop up, for instance, pre-record or store time, record time as well. I can set up here. I can capture a snapshot, so I always get a snapshot of when this event happened, because this could be any type of event. And I could get it to open up in my client, as you saw before. So, and in here, I have already set up everything. I have linked it up to a specific user and linked cameras as well. So then whenever the threshold exceeds, then it's going to pop up in my client. So I hope that part was clear. So in here, in the client side of it, I have the flow view in the business intelligence, and then I have the store view. And then I can choose whichever shop I want to view, or if I want to view all of them. So over here, as you can see, I can click in here. PCFC and auto report is only for DSS. Yes, it is at the moment. Yeah. I'm not sure that there's going to be a feature for this in DSS Express. For now, it's at least over here. So, but what you can do in the flow mode of DSS Pro here is you can type in whichever text you want to type, as I did down here. You can also choose whatever you want to show, like I said before. And then you could run it in a full screen. So you could, in fact, install a small computer, any type, behind the screen, like a nuke box or whatever, behind the screen, and then you could run the client view just like that, and then you could see the counting is also adjusting like that if you want to use the Dss Pro with the client mode. So second. So that's how to run the full screen mode and hide different parts. And the events are going to be over here, and then they're gonna pop up over here. I could see a live view. I could set up a specific remark for that person, snapshot, recordings, maps. I could do everything over here and send it by email as well to notify the proper staff for dealing with this exceeded amount of customers, for instance. So over here in the business intelligence, I think I already went through this from the pictures. You can see how the counting is done already over here from the different hours or weeks, months. And then you also have the, then you have this part, the flow analysis. The difference between the business intelligence way of counting and the flow analysis is the flow analysis is not requiring to have a business intelligence license, the business intelligence module as a licensed part. But if you only have the flow analysis, then you only get the counting. You don't get the stay number, the alarms, and so on, the store alarms. So if you just want to do regular counting in and out, then you can use this. So I hope I went thoroughly enough through Dss Pro to show you what's possible and what's not possible. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. As I said before, we do have proper material for installation guide and configuration and everything. We got you covered. Then we have the third-party integration that I promised you guys. I'm sorry that we have already exceeded the time. I hope you guys can bear with me. We are nearly done, and I hope it's been worth your while at least. So third-party integration. We have a document which I've already shared with you, which already shows you all the CGI commands and the SDK over here. This document is actually for this whole version of Dss Pro, which is the epidemic prevention customization for Dss Pro. So that covers thermal body, access control, and flow control monitoring. So all the CGI and APK parts are in here. You can see then you can already use these commands to easily, let me just go to the people counting, easily to what to say, to use it together with, to integrate it with third parties. That could be if a shop already had a software for managing their store and they wanted to get this counting data in from our cameras, no problem whatsoever. You already have all the strings over here and you get the summary of all the counting and so on and so on. So, and it looks something like this when you enter the IP and then you get all the counting data from it. So I hope that part is quite clear. Then we also have the integration with Milestone, which actually works very well. We tested it out properly. It already explains which version it works with. If you go to Milestone website, you'll also be able to see the plugin. You can see the guide, how to install everything, but don't worry. I already downloaded everything you needed for it, the guide, the plugin, and also the firmware that's needed to run the people counting and flow control together with Milestone. So it's only supported with 5 series cameras, either with varifocal or fixed lens. And this is how it looks. I might be lagging a little bit because of the connection, I assume. It's running super smooth. We didn't have any wrong counting whatsoever during it. Let me just try to run it. Once you get the PPT, you'll be able to see that everything is running super smooth. And this is directly from Milestone connecting to 5 series cameras. So they're using the way that we did it. I'm not sure. You can ask Milestone about it. If it's all the compatible versions are already mentioned, you can see it in the PPT or in the document that I have already shared, that I'm already going to be shared with the QR for you guys. But you can also ask Milestone. Maybe they haven't updated that part. Maybe it's already supporting it. Might be. I have no idea. So that's already the integration with Milestone. Very, very simple setup. It took like 5 minutes for us to set everything up, and that's it. And then you have a great solution. If a customer is already using Milestone, that's very suitable for him. Not to necessarily have too many multiple different solutions, but maybe just use some of it he has already. So that was more or less it, what I had for you guys. So now is a little bit of time for the Q&A. We already had quite a lot Q&A during the chat, but I don't know if there was anything that was very confusing for you guys. I tried to explain everything to my full extent in order to make things a little bit more structured and easy for you to understand. And I hope it was easy for you to see the different solutions and what the differences were in order of alerts, events, and so on, and possibilities. So I don't know if any of you guys, any questions? Anything you thought that I went through a little bit too fast? All right, I guess not. So last thing before I leave you guys, thank you very much for attending. I hope it was worth your while. I'm very, very happy that so many of you guys attended and that you are so keen on learning about people counting and flow control. And I hope that you share this awareness and you're not just keeping it for yourself, because sharing is caring, and sharing this awareness with shop owners, with decision takers in corporate businesses is key. Because if they don't know these solutions are it was interesting, my spelling. Not sure I got that one. It's important that we share these solutions and we create awareness about these solutions, because many companies don't know about these solutions, right? So last thing I want to do before I leave you guys is, first of all, you can see if you want to hook up with me, I have my LinkedIn account over there to the left. Follow us on Facebook, our Dahua Technology Nordic News Facebook page, where we share a lot of different important information, different tests. I do a lot of different camera tests to show you how everything is, unboxing and so on and so on. Which NVR this was, the one that I was using, that was just the 5 series NVR. And then we have the QR code to the right. If you scan that one, you can also get it by a link. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. If you scan this QR code and give us some feedback, which is super important for us in order to improve our trainings, improve our awareness, and help you build solutions out there, please give us some feedback in order for us to keep on improving our solutions. So I hope all of you guys can see the link that I just shared. You can also go in there, and once you have finished the feedback, you will get the sharing link and everything is shared there. I'm gonna add the recording in there once we are done. But thank you very much for listening in. I'm gonna stay here still for a little while if some of you guys have some questions. All right? Take care and stay safe out there. Bye. Well, you guys didn't see the link here in the chat? You can't see it in the chat? Please email the link. That's weird. All right, then you guys can just scan it from your phone directly. Just a second. Here you go. Here is the link. Now you should be able to see it. Oh, okay, yeah. But then maybe you could just copy the link that I just shared in the chat. I don't know if you got it. Yes, likewise, definitely. And looking forward to the next webinar with most of you guys as well. Thanks, guys. You're welcome. Let me just try to correct that QR. I don't know what happened. Selv tak. Velbekomme. Og tusind tak, fordi I deltog. Thank you as well. Can you use MPS together with DPP18 to get the possibility to customize the interface? Yes. But then, then you have to use the DSS to trigger the content. You can't use the DPP18 with MPS and NVR or IPC directly. No, I'm sorry. You're welcome. Thanks a lot for joining in as well, guys. En samlet download-fil til hvad skulle du bruge den til? Download-fil med hvad? Med indholdet, eller hvad? Du kan jo godt downloade dem, hvor du bare trykker download alle. Du har jo, du kan jo godt bare downloade selve den her sharing 1-fil, eller sharing 2021-fil. Yes, we do have, Martin. We do have plenty of box cameras with CVBS and OSD. But the CVBS output is mainly not used for constantly watching. That's mainly used for adjustments. Now the QR should be better. I don't know what happened to the QR code. I need for constant output hybrid camera. Meanwhile, customers is upgrading their analog. No, I don't think we have one that would be as suitable for that for constant. No. Sure, Krista. I can do that. Just did it. You can see if you receive an email. Selv tak, Martin. Glad fordi du kunne lide det. Goddag, Dan. Dags. Må jeg ringe til dig lige om et øjeblik? Ja. Ja. Nå, det er jeg glad for at høre. Var det ikke lidt mere struktureret? Super. Nej, det er meget begrænset, hvad der er beskeder her. Jeg har lige, det har kun været, der er det fleste af dem er sådan noget, der ikke er noget link. Så det er meget, så er der en, ja, der er ikke noget, der har været vigtigt her, kan jeg se, som jeg ikke allerede har svaret på. Ja. Ja, men... Ja. Nå, I kan ikke se, I har ikke kunne se det i chatten? Okay. Nej, okay, ja, så er det svært. Så er det klart. Ja, lige præcis. Men jeg tror bare, jeg læser dem op næste gang for jer. Så har jeg dem mere. Super. Det er godt. Jamen, det gør vi. Godt, hej. Sending push messages 10 times on one person. Ja, Martin, videoen den bliver lagt op i det link, når det er. Så det vil sige, det link, som jeg har sendt ud til jer, eller som jeg kunne scanne, eller har kunnet kopiere fra chatten, der kommer optagelserne også til at ligge automatisk. Your AI camera have human alert. Is there any way to add a dead time? No, you can. The question, Martin, now we have a camera that is sending push messages 10 times on one person. You could choose depending on which rule. Ja, vi ses, Palle. Ha' det godt. Depending on which rule you're setting up, if you're setting up, for instance, an IVS rule like a tripwire, I'm quite sure you wouldn't get it. If you are setting up a intrusion rule, then you might get multiple push messages. That could be one of the reasons. But there's not really any dead time you can set for it. No, you can set periods, like you only want to receive messages in specific periods, but not like dead time. Like if you have an alarm now, then you can't receive another alarm from that camera within a specific amount of time. No, only by periods. All right, guys, I'm gonna be signing off for now. I think most of them are already left, but thank you very much for attending again. Tusind tak, John. I think personally, Martin, regarding if I would prefer tripwire over intrusion, I think yes, for notifications, maybe, yeah, that would make more sense. The only good thing about intrusion compared to tripwire, which I find for better use with intrusion, is that if, for instance, a person by any means or accident does not trigger the tripwire, he will trigger the intrusion, because in the intrusion rule, when you set it up, you can set it up to trigger by crossline or appearing. And obviously, if the person is not captured crossing the line, then if he's just appearing inside the rule, then he would be triggered as well. So I would say it would be safer. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye, and see you next time.